Welcome to Life After Graduation, and a special welcome to Hilde Bergman and Martin Axelsson, or to alumni from the bachelor and master programs in chemistry. We're very glad that so many of you have chosen to participate. And before we begin, I will have some information. We would like you to keep your cameras and microphones off during the complete lecture. And if you would like to ask a question, you do so by writing a message to us in the chat. And with that said, I will leave the word to Alice, who will be the moderator and ask all the questions. So yeah, let's begin.
Yes. Would you like to start by introducing yourselves? Maybe Hilde can start?
So, hi. Yeah, I have a background in chemistry and biochemistry. I took the bachelor program and a master program in biochemistry. And then I did a PhD in analytical chemistry, and now I work at Cytiva in Uppsala. And I have previously worked for AFRY, a former OF. But I've been at Cytiva, or GE Healthcare, as it was called before, the whole time. So yeah.
And what do you do on a normal day at work?
My title is scientist. It actually describes it quite well, I guess. I spend quite a lot of time in the lab. Some weeks I am only in the lab, and some weeks I spend a lot of time in front of the computer. And I work with one of the products called Cephadex, which is one of the protein chromatography separation media, and the development of those.
Okay. And Martin, can you continue with introducing yourself?
Yes, so hello everyone. My name is Martin Axelsson. I'm a PhD student at physical chemistry in Ångström. And I, about halfway through, I would say, I will have my half-time is planned for December, so about in the middle of my studies.
And what do you do on a normal day?
Oh, really depends on the day. As a PhD student, you kind of always juggle a few things, being in the lab, teaching, reading. You always have a few courses that you need to take, preparing for seminars, and so it's a huge difference depending on when it is and what it is.
How much, or what is the distribution between working in the lab and teaching for you?
So teaching is kind of capped at 20%.
Okay.
During your entire studies. So usually the system that we have in Uppsala is that you're supposed to finish your PhD in 4 years, and then teaching is outside of that. So typically you have a 5-year PhD and then 1 year of studies or teaching. But it really depends on when it is. When you have teaching, you have a lab course, it could be almost 100% for a couple of weeks, but then it dies down a bit and then you have more time in the lab and stuff.
Okay. So both of you seem to have very mixed schedules.
Yeah.
Well, Hilde, what made you want to start to study chemistry in the first place?
That was my favorite subject in high school.
Okay.
It was also my favorite subject in middle school, so I think I was quite captivated early on. But it was also, this is actually a bit funny, because when I went to high school, we had a seminar from a person working at what's now Cytiva, talking about protein chromatography media, and I was fascinated by it. And I thought protein separation and proteins was like the coolest thing in the world. And so actually one of the main reasons that I started doing biochemistry was the love for proteins. Today that's not really what I do, but it's still, chemistry is a lot of fun.
Okay, so you're contributing in that field at least.
Yes, exactly.
But you seem to have been very, well, what do you call it? Your road has seemed to be very, a lot of active choices.
Yes.
Not a lot of coincidences there.
Now, the funny thing is that when I started doing my PhD, that was in protein analysis, so that's how I ended up there. But it really was an active choice because I thought analytical chemistry would be beneficial to know more about. And I was fascinated by proteomics and mass spectrometry, which is what I did my studies in. And also by the end of my master's studies and my master project, I was really tired of growing bacteria.
Okay.
And I thought, well, maybe machines will work easier. That was a rookie mistake. They don't. But main two reasons: I was tired of bacteria, and I thought it would be good to broaden yourself a bit.
Martin, in your case, has it also been a lot of active choices, or are you more of a banana peel guy? I don't know.
I would say it's mostly active choices. I when I started chemistry, the bachelor program, I I chose chemistry because I wanted to do something in the harder natural sciences, and I was a lot better at chemistry than physics. So then I just go with this. But then I kind of, because of that, I was also interested in physics. I kind of leaned towards physical chemistry. I was moving a bit into material chemistry. Oh, this is cool. And then I realized that you just have a bulk material, so then maybe not as cool. So I went back to molecules. And then this type of physical chemistry was more my thing.
How long did it take you to, well, after you made your master's thesis, to get a job or a doctoral position? Maybe Hilde can start on that.
I have been extremely lucky both times. So I got a PhD. I started my PhD 2 weeks after I finished my master thesis, and so I had that position just when I was finishing, and then after my PhD, I had a job after 2.5 months.
Okay.
Which was also pretty lucky. So.
How did you go about getting that job? Was it through the PhD, or did you apply for it?
I applied for it. Actually, this is a bit funny because when I was finishing up, I was saying to myself, I do not want to do consulting. And I want to have a permanent position right away and all of that, and I was applying for those kind of jobs at first. And then a friend of mine who was working at the company called Sigma started convincing me that, no, I think you would really like consulting. That would be great for you. So I started applying for those big companies like OF, which it was called, it's now called AFRY, and Sigma and Nitec and all of those, and got an interview at AFRY and got the position there. And I really loved that. And I think that is really the way to get into the market now. It is a really good way to get into the market. I think I had a lot of misconceptions about the consulting industry.
Okay. That's good to know. Martin, was it as easy for you?
So mine was almost even easier, I think, because I didn't even finish my master's degree. So what you need for a PhD position is 240 credits, whereof 60 are supposed to be on advanced level. So actually, my now supervisor was also my thesis advisor for my bachelor program. And he got money for a PhD student, and I had just started a master's courses. And then he asked me, do you want to do a PhD? I had a bit of a time thinking, oh, maybe do I want to do it here? Do I want to do it somewhere else? I kind of decided that I wanted it already. But then, yeah, I think like it's a great group. It was a really interesting project. We had a good, good relationship already. So then it's like, yes, I would like to do that. I can't start now. I need to finish at least 1 year master's before. But then yeah, when I did, I just started right away. So of course, this only happens if you already have someone that wants to hire you before. But most people actually, yeah, finish their master's thesis also.
We're glad to wait for you.
Yeah.
Hilde, we've gotten a couple of questions about the consulting industry. Could you elaborate on that? What do you mean when saying that?
Yeah, I saw the. Sorry, I have had a cold. I am healthy now, but my voice is still. So I am allowed to be at work. I've talked to my boss, just saying. So the consulting industry in Swedish is konsultfirmor. So that you have a uppdrag. What's uppdrag in English? So you work at a consulting firm.
Yeah.
And then you have a position at another company, like Cytiva or Thermo Fisher, or like if you're in Uppsala, those would be two big ones, or Novavax or someplace like that. And you work there, that is where you spend your days at the company who is hiring the consultant firm, but you're not hired by them. You're hired either on a project position or a permanent position on the consulting firm, but you work at the other place. One of my misconceptions was that I believe that you would be sort of, no one would really care about you at the consulting firm.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that, okay, they just take you in so they can throw you out and they can put you there and they get money from having you there.
Yeah.
But I felt, at least at AFRY, and I know people at Sigma or places like Alton, it's where I know people, they say the same thing. You feel extremely cared about because you are, their main asset is people. It's not your skills, but it is the person. And it's actually, I think more than in other companies, it's actually a way of broadening yourself, and they give you opportunities to grow probably more than in other companies. And sometimes easier to get courses and easier to get leadership skills and courses and those kind of things was easier to get through AFRY than my current company, actually. So.
Would you say that you spend, or where do you spend the most time? At which company? Consulted in, or?
So for me, I was, 95% at Cytiva, and 5% was in the evenings going to that consulting firm. Once a month, you had a meeting with all the people there, and then you got to meet all these people working at all the different companies, when they had the projects there. And then, but there are two kinds of consultants. It could also be that you work at the consulting firm and someone has ordered a project from the consulting firm. So then you work 100% there, but you're doing a project for someone else. But the group that I was in, we were mainly, we had our positions at different other companies where we spend our days.
Okay. If you have any other questions about consulting industry, please just ask and we can return to that. Yeah, maybe we could get back to your time at Uppsala University a bit, or in your case, you're still at Uppsala, Martin. What did you do for your bachelor's thesis, Martin?
Okay, so I was working on, I'm still working on the water splitting is the main field or artificial photosynthesis. If you go to House 7, the chemistry groups there, almost everyone is working on this, that we're trying to store solar energy into chemical bonds. My project specifically was working on what we call P-dots. It's this kind of polymer nanoparticles that works for catalysts for hydrogen evolution. So it's one of the half reactions for water splitting, where we split to oxygen and hydrogen gas. It's similar to what I do now. Now I'm much more fundamental, but then I was trying to, does this system work, basically?
Okay.
What's the project?
Yeah. Was that the master's or the bachelor's?
Bachelor's, because I didn't actually do a master's project.
Okay, right, yeah. Okay, so that's very, well, you seem to have narrowed it down already then by a bachelor's.
Yes, yeah.
Found your field.
Mm-hmm.
Hilda, was it the same for you? What did you do?
The master and then the bachelor?
Yeah.
I did enzyme protein and protein. Oh Lord, I can't find the words in English right now. Sorry. No, I did enzymology, so enzyme kinetics for both my bachelor and my master.
Okay.
So I was in Mikael Widersten's group for my bachelor, and then I was in Helena Danielsson's working a little bit with the Biocore for my master project.
Okay. Well, about the university, what would you say that, well, to be, to apply for a master's thesis group or a doctoral position, what are they most interested in? Is it the kind of courses you take, or is it your other qualifications? How important are grades, for example?
Sorry, maybe I can start. I would say grades is not really something that they care about too much. They look at, for a PhD position, they look a lot at your previous research experience. So I would say if you can get research experience, that's the best way to do that. You do that through master's project, of course, through bachelor project. I did also 2 summer projects during my time to see if I enjoyed research. That was also a great stepping stone for that. And for masters or like thesis projects, if you're interested, they will be interested in you, I think. If you reach out and say, I'm interested in doing this project in your group, then they already know, oh, this is a driven, interested student. It will probably be good to have them around.
Hilda, do you have any other take on this?
I was actually sitting through a couple of interviews in my group, and I'd say, like, the main thing is if, like you say, the person is interested, and it really helps if in the cover letter or something you do write about the research done in that particular group, and you say, I'm interested in this that you have done, and I am interested in that that you did in that paper. I thought that was good, and actually reading up on the specifics that group is doing helps a lot and show interest. I don't think grades almost weigh in at all. And like you say, just saying, having lab experience, I think is very important, and really liking working in the lab helps.
Mm-hmm. So to conclude, the most important things are lab experience and showing interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
How important is it to know several languages? We know that at university you speak a lot of English, but how much have you actually used it after?
I have lost quite a lot of it, like the English. I speak mainly Swedish here, but there are people who don't speak Swedish here also. Okay. And I also, again, that is one of the things I was really proud at working at AFRY before, and that consulting firm, because they were quite good at taking in people that did not speak Swedish. And that was, yeah, I like them a lot for that. I think it's such a waste that good people don't get jobs because they don't speak Swedish.
Okay, so English is definitely an asset, but you haven't had to use like school German or anything?
No.
I would
you
say
definitely need to know English. But
yes, yeah. English is, I would say, if you want to go abroad and keep doing studies, then depending on where you go, it would be very beneficial to know the language where you're going to. But I think even most of the time you get by on English.
Do you have any, you haven't studied abroad, any of you, right? No.
I was in Finland for 1 year.
Okay, you are. And that's English, I guess.
Yeah, I was studying in Swedish actually, but in Finland is where I learned to speak English. Sounds a bit contradictory, but yeah.
Yeah, makes sense at least. And do you have any, well, your classmates from your bachelor's studies, what are they doing now? Do you know people that are working abroad, or if you have anyone interesting at the top of your mind?
I do know a few people who lives abroad now, and I know several people who want to do postdocs abroad if they did a PhD and such, but it's I think most people are in Sweden now that I know.
Yeah, I have same. I have from the bachelor's. I think I have one friend she's doing a PhD in Belgium now, but that's also completely in English. Otherwise, I think most people are also still in Sweden.
Well, Hilda, we have got a question earlier. It was, what is it like to be a woman in chemistry?
Where I work now, it's really no difference from being a man, I'd say.
Is it evenly distributed?
Very evenly distributed at this place, and the top person at this company is a woman in Uppsala, I think, like so as well, at the site here. So I did feel like there was a bit of a difference in academia.
Okay.
Just because I think it is changing, but I felt it more there. I don't think I was particularly affected by it, but I think I had a female supervisor during my PhD, and I think she probably had a harder time getting grants sometimes for being a woman, and I think she had to fight extra hard for it sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have the same experience in your during your PhD, Martin?
I mean, I feel like my PhD group now is mostly female, which is a bit weird, especially or a bit out of the usual especially for physical chemistry. So I would say at my group, it's going the right direction. But I think also, like, if you look at professorships, for example, we have no permanent professor that's a female in physical chemistry. I think at the entire universities, it's 20% or something. And since academia wants to be very inclusive, then that also means that a lot of the female professors need to do a lot of extra work, like sitting in committees and boards and stuff like that to be representative. So then that's also work that they're not focusing on the research that maybe their male counterparts have the opportunity to do.
Oh.
Yeah, there's definitely issues, but I think at least my feeling is that the community at large want to work to fix them as soon as possible.
I think so as well.
That's a positive outlook. We hope for that. Hilda, you got a question in the chat. How did it feel to come as a newly examined person to Viva and consult an old and experienced company?
I think that is one of the misconceptions that I had. Also, tying back to that question about misconceptions I had about the consulting industry, I felt like you have to be an expert to be a consultant, which is not true. That is one of the main ways to get a job today as a newly examined person. It's a bit like they especially at this company, they have a super tight headcount, and they can't hire people that often. So getting consultants in is really a way to see who is good and who is not. So I was a little bit intimidated, but I learned very quickly, like, you're treated as a newcomer, like who is hired. At least in the group I came to, I was very included, and they treated me like I was just another person being hired, even though I wasn't a consultant. So I had a really good experience starting consulting for this old and experienced company.
Okay, could we once again move back to your university days? Martin, for example, before your PhD, how did you balance your studies and the rest of your life? What did you prioritize?
I definitely prioritize studies and like the life at university for a long time. I was really active in UPAC, for example. Had a lot of different things there. But then I kind of hit the wall and burned out a bit on that. And that's, I think that I would have hit that no matter what, but it kind of teaches you to, okay, maybe I should actually start focusing on other things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think for my first part, during my bachelor especially, it was, I had issues balancing, but then afterwards I've gotten better at it. And as a PhD, you really need it, because sometimes it can be really grueling and you need to know how to relax and when to let work go and do something else. So.
Okay. So you feel like you've found the balance now?
Maybe not a balance, but or a balance. Maybe not a good balance, but a balance definitely. I think that would be the same no matter PhD student you ask.
Okay, it's a work in progress. Yeah. What was the most, what course was the most rewarding? Is it something that you remember that was like, oh, this course everybody should take because I learned so much?
Protein engineering.
Protein engineering. Okay. And Martin?
I would actually say organic chemistry too. Even though it's not from my subject most interesting course maybe, but it really teaches you how to be independent in the lab, to plan in the lab, and to adapt to long lab days and stuff like that. Like it teaches you how to actually be a laboratory student, which physical chemistry does not. Like if you do measurements on a laser for a couple of hours and then sit and do a lab report for 2 days, that does not teach you how to be independent in the lab.
I agree, that course was excellent, and I'm not an organic chemist by any means either, so it's a really good course.
It's crucial, but we should fear it a bit, or is it?
No, I thought it was great. I like I said, I don't see myself as an organic chemist at all, and I'm a bit of a clumsy person, so I was sort of scared about doing the organic chemistry parts because I know I could have burned something up, you know. But that course felt very safe, so that was good.
It's an intense course, but it's a really good, just because of the lab part, almost exclusively, I would say.
We will soon wrap this up, but before that, we have a question to Hilde once again. What kind of projects do you normally get when working at a consulting company?
That really depends.
You don't have to elaborate too much because
Often doing stuff in the lab, like doing some analytical chemistry or doing some synthesis chemistry or something. But it's extremely varied. You can also do like just sitting at the computer and filling in forms and stuff. It's really depends. And I think the consulting firms usually try to talk to you about what you want to do as well, and try to match you with a good project.
okay, so it really varies.
It really varies, yeah.
How stressful would you say a PhD is? We've gotten some questions about that as well. Maybe Martin could answer that.
Yeah, so it really varies also. Like some periods it feels really nice. You feel you can do everything at your own pace. Sometimes you have 5 different things that you need to finish in way too short time. I think it's a bit in bursts also. Like now I'm kind of preparing for my half-time and then I have a lot of things that I want to get done, and then I still have courses to take. I'm still correcting a lot of lab reports from teaching this last period. It's like there's too much things going on, and then it can be really stressful. But otherwise, sometimes it's like you can treat it. You should be able to treat it like a normal job. You can't always do that. But if you have that mindset, then it can be manageable in most of the time. But then there will always be times where you don't have enough time to do that, and then yeah.
Okay, so would you say that you work more than 40 hours per week?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I'd like to say as well, because I actually did have a burnout during my PhD, and I think one of the most important things to consider is that you find a supervisor that you work well with, and like I think my supervisor was great in many ways, but we were very, very different, and I think that caused a lot of problems and a lot of stress. And I think that's one of the really, really important things to think about when you choose a PhD position is really look at the group. And when I started, I was alone as well. And I think as a person who probably more likes working in a group of people, that was also adding to that, I'd say.
I definitely agree that the supervisor will be the person that you spend 5 years together with. All the research that you do together. It needs to be a person that you can trust, and that you trust to have your best like condition in behalf, and not use you as a lab slave and like you need to hurry up. Like typically, I mean, I would say my supervisor is great at that. He pushes me, but he says like, if it's too much, then he gives me the opportunity to relax and doesn't push me too hard. And you can definitely see some other students who are more stressed because they have a different relationship with their supervisor.
Okay, that is might be a good take-home message to choose your supervisor with them.
I would say choose your supervisor more carefully than you choose your research project.
Yes, definitely.
Because I think no matter what you focus on, if it's in your field, then it becomes super interesting no matter what you do. But your supervisor, you can't really change that. Or you can, but it's
tricky.
Yeah. We've got one more question in the chat, and I think that might be the perfect way to conclude this. What is the best thing with your position currently? One thing that makes you smile in the morning.
I'm just gonna say hello to Oscar because I saw that he asked the question. He actually taught me this job. The best thing is now that I get to work in a group, which I didn't get to do during my PhD studies. It feels more like a team. And I love that all the people are so different. and like have different backgrounds and different ways of working, but it's everyone just strives towards the same goal. And I felt during my PhD studies, maybe that was not always the case. It's so much about the, publish or perish culture there, and here it's more about collaborative atmosphere.
Yeah, that's great. Martin?
I would also say my coworkers, actually. I feel I'm in a great group now, and with your PhD, I mean, of course, I love the project as well, and I think it's super interesting, and I love being able to do science every day, but there will be days and weeks when nothing goes right, and if you don't have a good supporting environment, then nothing feels fun to do, basically. So if you have a great group around you that you like going into every day, no matter what, even if you, or to come back to, I had a colleague coming in just vented, oh, the laser is not working, why this fucking laser? And then just we were ranting about it a while in the office, and then she was like, oh no, I feel better, now I'll go back to it.
Did you sing the song?
No, we did not sing the song.
Okay.
I don't think she knows the song. But, yes. Yeah.
It's a great
song. It is a great song. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other last words? Do you have anything that you want to pitch?
I love being in the lab. That is also one of the things I love about my current work, which is something I learned about myself. I didn't really think I did. I saw myself as a theoretical person. It changed a little bit during my PhD, but it changed even more where I work now. I love being in the lab and not just sitting at the computer.
That's great. And Martin?
I would just want to say, like, if you feel that it's a PhD is something that you want to do and is interested, then go for it. If you would rather be in a company, you do not necessarily have to do a PhD. You can finish a master or just do a bachelor's degree and then go out into industry as well. So I don't think, in Germany, for example, you're basically required to do a PhD. In Sweden, it's not that way. You even becomes overqualified for some positions that you might want if you do a PhD. So I would say think hard about it. If it's something that you actually want to do and feel, then go for it, absolutely. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. But if you want to go into industry, maybe look at finishing a master's or just your bachelor's degree and look into that after.
Okay, thank you. And with that wisdom, I will turn the computer back to Måns.
Yes, thanks everyone for joining us, and a special thanks to Hilde and Martin. And with that, I think we will finish this meeting.